Hello everyone, today I'll be discussing my research in my capstone course based around the psychology of flavor and tapping into the question, is flavor only derived by the individual's perception, or do we have an affinity towards being conditioned? To start, I think it's best to try and give these two words a definition in order to make some clarity. Flavor is a result of product characteristics and can be considered as a technical objective concept, which can categorically be organized by sweet, sour, spicy, bitter, and umami, where taste fundamentally uses our senses to communicate the elements of flavor to the brain, or it is also known as the sensation of flavor perceived in the mouth and throat on contact with the substance. Two other terms that I would like to disclose is olfactory and gustatory. Olfactory is related to our sense of smell towards flavor, and gustatory is our chemical senses known better as how we taste what we taste. To the right of this slide, you'll notice a chart that makes up the relations between flavor itself and how it is registered and perceived. As you can see, there is an arrow at the emotional level between flavor and liking, which goes both ways, indicating that external factors like brand, packaging, colors, and shapes can all influence flavor registrations. This sensorial registration of flavor relies on the senses and the brain upon sensorial input. This is based on gustatory and olfactory senses, but more specifically in our mouths, the tongue. When we consider the tongue, we must have an understanding of gustation, which does use our five senses, but more realistically, the tongue is very unique in the world of flavor perception. Registration is done by taste receptor cells, which are structured as our taste buds. There are up to 10,000 taste buds clustered in packs of 50 in a process they call papillae. This process ultimately sends any gustatory information to the brain, registers the appropriate label for that stimuli. So if you are a smoker or a drinker, you will have experienced different senses than other individuals, and this is because there are different types of eaters. So the sensitive eater can be divided into three categories, as you can see. There are mildly sensitive eaters who tend to rely more on logical reasoning for decision-making than other tasters. The second type of eater is moderately sensitive and likes to play things by ear or will even improvise how they feel against other tasters. And the last eater is highly sensitive and sort of separates themselves from the other two eaters as they will try to explore the entirety of the flavor if they find it interesting and complex. This is due to each individual being unique and the number of papillae they have on their tongues. Gastronomy can be defined by the science of flavor and tasting, or a combination of natural sciences and human-related sciences. But as seen, reductionism seems apparent in the world of flavor, while testing only in conditioned environments, which seems naive to believe that we can simply reduce the size of a topic in order to fathom its context. With neuroimaging, however, they are either measuring brain metabolism, glucose consumption, or blood flow. It is also known as fMRIs or EEGs, and these remove any reductionist claims when we see images of brains light up with different neurotransmitters firing in different parts of the brain that are responsible for our pleasantness of flavor and our flavor perception. On the next slide, however, I will present two conditioned arguments to counter my evidence. The first study is conditioning infants with sweetened water at 6 months, and 1 year later they would be back and tested on whether there was a flavor aversion among the sample group and the placebo group. As expected, the sample group wanted the water a year later, while the placebo was not interested. This suggests that we are not all genetically programmed without environmental influence. A similar study was done with rats, only they used maltodextrin and used Pavlovian learning to condition the rats into liking the maltodextrin by using two different reinforcements, glucose and fructose, which guided the rats to pick the stimulus with the reward. So, if knowledge and perception are different from person to person, what is the reality of flavor perception? One way to look at reality would be the world without us, a world untouched by human desires or intentions. This is fundamental differences between flavor and tasting, where the objective is real and exists without the subjective or the humans, and the subjective leads us to the perception of that reality. Perception of flavor has more than one contributing factor, however, rather a systematic structure with multisensory modalities that bring together our perception of flavor by our five senses. This means flavor perception needs further research without unconditioned responses, and this is why I created a survey in order to tap into the psychology of flavor. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy